Are you looking for inspiration, peace, and a deeper connection with your soul? If you're ready to investigate your higher truth, take a deeper look inside, and discover a better way to live, stay tuned for Higher Soul Living, where we ignite your divine intelligence for life. With me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I experienced a profound spiritual awakening that was so life-changing. It took me into a 30-year career as a metaphysical life coach and breathwork expert. I've mentored thousands of people through their personal challenges, anxiety, self-doubt, and search for meaning. Higher Soul Living is about choosing to live the higher way. It's about taking conscious ownership and drawing spiritual intelligence into your everyday life. Join me on a search for higher truth to find hope, connection, and happiness. The Higher Soul Living Show starts now. Good morning, everyone. This is Reverend Christine Hart-Savage, and you're listening to Higher Soul Living. And my guest, well, actually, it's not my guest, my co-host today is Dr. Pat Basili. And Pat's here with me, and I'm so excited about it because we always have some really great chit-chat online. And we're talking about cleaning up your life today. So are you supporting or hindering yourself? It's a great question for all of us to look at. So Dr. Pat, have you been supporting yourself this year in 2025 or hindering yourself?
I have to tell you, I think I'm getting a little bit of each. And, you know, today, right before the show, I was showing you a real stuck point for me. And so what does overthinking do sometimes? Overthinking, that's the thing. Trust your gut, stop overthinking. So that's something I'm working on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The overthinking thing is something that we all do. Like, it's incredible. We get sort of attached to something. And then the overthinking, of course, it creates the clutter. You can't see anything clearly. And I think the whole idea with that is to step back from things. That's what I do. Step back and think, oh boy, and I meditate and breathe, because then it clears your mind.
Yeah.
And suddenly the answer, if you step back from things, you come back in, and I'm sure it is with you, Dr. Pat, too, and our listeners, that when you come back in and you give that space and distance, it's really clear.
Yeah.
Your answer.
Yeah, it's like I was just showing you a stuck point that I had, which for most people, they're like, seriously, you're stuck on this. But I was showing you before we got on the call, and I was saying, oh my gosh. And you immediately helped me because you looked at what we were designing and you said, I love that font. And see, I was so close to it, like after the 53rd font that I tried, right? You can't tell. But I knew in my heart when I looked at that, it was just amazing, right?
Yeah.
But I love our graphic for this episode. If you go to the website and you look at the episode graphic, it's a giant boulder, but there's grass that's good. And so what's going on? Is the boulder supporting or hindering the grass grow? Or is the grass, on the other hand, supporting or hindering that boulder? It's really an interesting question. How about you? How you doing so far for decluttering this year?
Look, honestly, this year, 2025, I have been decluttering, but I did last year as well, because I had a whole big shift in my life over the last couple of years and moved house and changed things. So I've been really looking at who I am, where I want to go in my life. So I've been really sorting through decisions. And I call choices and decisions two different things. The main thing for me is the big one is the choice, and then make decisions based underneath that. So I have made so many choices and really looked at them clearly. Are they supporting me? Are they hindering me? And quite a few of them, you know, as you make those decisions, I think they can change a little bit as well as you go through. Can't always see everything clearly, but I think that main choice is really important. But if life's got you in a headlock, or the boulder's sitting on that road and you can see some grass, but you can't get to the other side of that boulder, that's when we need to take time out and really look at it.
Yeah, because you don't know. You don't know. I mean, we know how powerful things are that grow, right? We know that grass can grow anywhere, but you don't really know what's on the other side of that boulder, do you?
No, absolutely. And sometimes that's scary. Yeah, that's really scary for people. But, you know, we can't stay stuck. We don't want to stay stuck. But a
Yeah.
lot of people do stay stuck. So I think this is an important topic. It's like, how do we start cleaning up our life? What are some of the things that we can do? What are some of your things that you're thinking about at the moment, Dr. Pat? Like, what is it, some of your strategies that if something is stuck and
Hmm.
you want to unstick it, what are your personal strategies for that?
I go play table tennis. No, I'm not kidding. For real. I mean, so that may seem odd, but there's something meditative about the sport, better known as ping pong. Now, we know that science now shows that if you can bring table tennis, custom table tennis tables into an assisted living people that have Alzheimer's and dementia, it improves their dementia and
Yeah.
their memory ability. So we know that. But what is it about me that does that? I mean, my gosh, you ever try to focus on that little ball that comes back at you like, so it gives me a minute. Now, I don't have to go do that long. That's one thing. The other thing is spiritual practice. There's nothing, I mean, I can't always get up and go play. So when I can't, I have to go to my go to. And I will tell you, my go to is gratitude. It doesn't matter what pickle I'm in, I go to gratitude, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is the time where we have to be intact and understand what we're feeling as well as what we're thinking, I think.
Yeah, totally. And I think that activity that you just mentioned about your ping pong, which I know you love,
Yeah.
I have two activities that I do constantly. One is dancing and one is singing. And for me, the singing group, we do so much together outside of the singing as well. But I think it is for me, as it might be for you with your ping pong, is that it brings you into present time. We get out of our head
Yeah.
because you have to be present to play a ball sport and you have to be present to sing. So you've really got to be, in your body and out of your mind, so to speak. There's a clarity there. So I think having activity is really important. And I think the other thing for me that I love to do is to laugh. I love to laugh. And last night I was sitting in the lounge room before I went to bed and I needed to look something up on our singing app. And I went back to about the 16th of January, pardon me. And there were all these different errors that people had made in the apps. Someone was talking about women and they put worm instead of women. And then someone else was saying, of course, I am Mr. Red, but they put Mr. Head. And I tell you, I was killing myself laughing. And I just think that is such a big stress release when
It
we're doing
is.
that sort of thing.
It
Yeah.
is. Now, I will tell you, singing, I mean, honestly, if I really wanted to embarrass myself, I would play a clip of Linda and I singing to our best friend Ronnie's birthday, which was yesterday. And it is just only for friends to hear. And I think what you're talking about, you have to find that thing for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I'm sitting here, it is exactly what you said. I have iTunes hooked up to my computer. I'm one of these people, just, I've said this before on air. I'm one of these people when I'm working and concentrated work, I can play in the background in my headphones, Pink Floyd, and have something on the screen at the same time, away from my computer on a television screen or something else. Because that's just what happens to me. Those two things that operate, especially music, just
Mm.
stops the fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I making a mistake here?
Yeah.
How do I get into flow? And let me ask you this. How do we trust ourselves?
That is the big one. That is the biggest question because and like all of us, we make mistakes and I've made a lot of them in my life. So learning to trust that you can make a decision, make a choice is a huge one. That is massive for people and that can take some time. So I think we have to start at little points first, little things, trusting ourselves. Okay, if I do this, what could the consequences be? And, stepping into listening to your gut, listening to that
Yeah.
intuition. And it's like, which is intuition and what is the fear? Like, what is the emotional trauma that comes up with it and which is the intuition? Because it's hard to tell the difference at first. That's what I
Yeah.
find.
I find this an interesting conversation. Today, last night, Nat and I were talking about the Oscar nominations. Of course, they came out today. And I really, really, really wanted Angelina Jolie to get a nod, but I do understand why she didn't. Hindering or supporting, right? Behavior. So
Yeah.
in a role like that, what's supporting behavior? Everybody and their brother is talking about how fabulous you did. In her case, many people don't even know she was singing during that movie. I mean, like
Mm.
what? Opera? Who knew that? And so there are certain personalities that do a really good job of stepping out into the world. But if you're not that personality, what
Mm.
is it and what area in your life can you reflect upon and
Yeah.
where can you shine, right? That's what we're talking
Yeah.
about here. It's
Yeah.
not
Exactly.
it's not like all the things you and I are doing wrong, although mistakes I've made a few. Isn't that like a song thing? That's like a line from a song. Mistakes I've made a few. Nat's going to have to look that up.
Mistakes I've made a few. Oh, that's Frank Sinatra
That's
singing that.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
But
Yeah.
I'm doing it my way, just saying.
Bring it my
Um,
way. Yeah.
you know, so from where you sit, how do you reflect? I mean, when you dance, how do you know, Christine, that you're on the ledge? Now, I have to tell you, I've become a little uber sensitive this year of reactions of people. I get a little bit, I'm more porous. Let me put it to you like that. I,
Sure.
I'm an
It
empath anyway,
happens.
but I'm
Yeah.
really more porous.
Yeah.
And I'm very reactive. Like all of a sudden, if somebody's sarcastic, I'm a little reactive to it. And that's unusual for me. So I'm going to have to reflect and look at that. You know, is there anything like that going on with you? I mean, it's not my personality, but for some reason this year,
Yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with more porous because as we expand spiritually and we're raising our vibration, which is great, we become more sensitive in our energy field. So we can pick up all sorts of things. And this can be difficult because from my own journey, when I was a child up to early 30s, I could feel all the time all these emotions from people where they would speak words and the emotion would be different. And I would get all confused and a feeling of almost like anxiety inside me. And I didn't know what was real, what was mine, and what was theirs.
mm-hmm.
So, really being able to decipher that is important. And then using your breath, nose breathing, when you've got that going on and you can feel that reaction, will settle that. It's the best way I know how to do that in the moment. So I'm always breathing and always trying to be, anyway, aware of any sort of reactions and then taking responsibility for that and then moving it. But the other side to this, like cleaning up your life, that is certainly, that inner cleaning is so important, what we were just discussing. I had a client in here last year, the year before, and she's got a really great friend. And her friend rang her and she was in mid conversation with her and something happened. And my client said, I'll ring you back. And she said, okay, that's great. And so the next time she saw her was a week or so later. And she had rung her back that week. And her friend was very cool with her and distant. And then the next time she saw her, she was the same. And so we went through and sort of unpacked what had happened. So I said to her, tell me exactly what was said. And this is about cleaning up your life, hindering or supporting. She said to me that I said to her, I'll ring her back. And I did ring her back. I rang her back. I said, when? And she said, a week later. And I said, okay, well, perhaps she thought you would ring her back that day. And she said, but I didn't say when I would ring her back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But when you say, I'll ring you back, that means it's perceived anyway, perceived as I will ring you back after I finish what I need to do, or I will ring you within that day. And she didn't. So we set up a way that she could actually clear this. So they were going to a particular function and sitting together at a school function, it was for their children. So I said to her, just bring it up and just say, look, I'm sorry. I know there's something going on here for you. I've hurt you in some way. You're upset. Is it because I didn't ring you back when I said I would and I took a week? And she said yes. And she said, I really apologize for that. I can see why you feel like that. And it was all cleared, and they've been really good since. So, sometimes it's just about looking at what situation is happening, what we're saying, and then acting on it in a particular way. And then cleaning it up if we don't get it right, because we do make mistakes. But I think a lot of friendships get damaged by not cleaning up that stuff. And that's a little thing. But having said that, it takes courage. It takes courage to speak about it with your friend or your partner or whoever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what you're talking about, I mean, let's bring this full circle for people, because I do think sometimes we think we're all mind readers and our friends are mind readers. But I know if I've done that, I have done that thing where I've said, you know what, can I call you back? But if I'm going to call you right back, I say, can I call you right back? I just need to take this call and I'll call you right back. But if I say, but it's so easy because you're in the middle of a conversation with someone, and who knows what they were talking about, but the point is you were able to get that reconciled, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
that's the main thing. It's about really taking the time to look at our lives and saying, okay, where's my life now? Am I standing in front of this boulder and on the road and on the grass, but on the road, and say, okay, what is blocking my life? The way I'm thinking, the way I'm speaking, the way I'm acting, what is it that I could do to change things so that I can go in the direction I want to go? I've got another example of a
Yes.
client I'm working with currently, and she's just doing such great work. She's only 30, just turning 30, and she's terrific. And she was bombarding me with texts all the time. There'd be nothing, and then she'd send like 10 or 20 texts, long texts. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is, it's quite addictive type of behavior, and just bombarding me. And because she was doubting her decisions and making decisions that she wasn't sure about. And then one day we started to look at a friend of hers who suddenly started, and her words were, she's bombarding me. She sent me all these texts and they're really long, and I find it overwhelming. What can I do about it? And I said, well, let's look at reflection here. Let's look at the reflection that's happening. And so we sort of talked about it, and I asked her a lot of questions. And she said, oh my goodness, that's what I do to people, isn't it? And I said, well, you have been known to do that. What great insight, and how wonderful that she got to see that. And as we looked at it, she was doing it in so many areas of her life. Now, this is what we all do. It mightn't be that particular pattern, but when we find something and we get some insight, I guarantee when you look at the different areas in your life, it'll be happening in many different places. So that's the way we can start to clean things up. And the next time we go to write all of these messages to somebody, think about it.
You have to stop.
Yeah, stop it.
You have to stop.
Write a short one, and otherwise make an appointment, get it organized differently. But yeah, it's great when we get that mirroring, we start to see that insight. And some people think, oh, this is awful. It's not, it's wonderful, because you can't change something unless you can see it.
Yeah.
And it takes courage, and it's great.
It takes courage. I want to talk about that for a minute, because it does take courage to really stop, reflect, and say, oopsie, right? Now, I will tell you this, that anyone that has any time in a 12-step program understands how to do this, because if you're working a program, an addiction program of any kind, you're working with the sponsor, and your sponsor will not let you get away with this. But in life, you have to be your own sponsor. And when you are your own sponsor, you have to muster up the courage. And let's talk about making amends, because that is a thing. And look, I have made amends. Some of them went really well. And others, it was like me learning not to make excuses. When you make amends, you are not making excuses. And we don't know how to do this, do we?
No, we've never been taught. We've never been taught. So this is something that I got to in my own life, and my programs are built around these things. But I do work with people that also are in AA at the moment. And I love the program, the AA program, because it just fits in perfectly with my teachings that I put together, that I learn, and I still practice, because I still have got so much to learn. But it's so great, though. It forces you in a way. When I say force, it's a self-decision, and you're making that choice to go within and be so incredibly honest with yourself. And it's difficult. And then to go to somebody and make amends. I certainly did this with my children. And as they were sort of teenagers, and I went to them as I became more conscious, because I was an unconscious young mum, single mum when the kids were little. And, I didn't understand life in that way. I didn't understand I had choices, and I could choose thoughts and my feelings and actions. So I went to them and I apologized to them separately for anything that I've done in their lives that has hurt them, and would they like to discuss anything.
Wow.
I got very different responses from both of my children. One said, "Oh, no, Mum, I must have been really hard. I must have been difficult." And the other one said, "Yes, basically it's all your fault."
Oh, and this is a process. I mean, this is the way you have to look at this: hindering, supporting, hindering. What are you doing? And one of the guidelines is, and let's talk about this guideline for a minute, because when you coached your friend, there was going to be no harm done. And so we have to look at hindering, right? You have to look at hindering, supporting. Sometimes our ego would drive us to do things. And in the end, what we're about to do is not going to support somebody. It's going to hinder them, or hinder a relationship, or literally create an energy that's not supportive. But in the end, let's talk about this. Incompletion, hello, that is a nightmare.
Absolutely.
Incompletion, talk about that. That's like a weird energy right there too.
Incompletion is on so many levels sort of almost dangerous for us, because it will keep us stuck. If we look at it from the practical daily level, we don't want incompletion with our relationships in any form. We want to be able to meet people in the street wherever we are and feel comfortable that we are complete with them, no matter what it is, good, bad, or indifferent. The other side to this, Dr. Pat, that I find is very important is the energetic side. Because if we don't actually complete, we still have like an energy thread that is going to that person, those people, that situation, whatever it is. And we're leaking energy through that thread of energy to that other situation or person constantly. And, if it's a really big charge of attachment, then we've got like a fire hose that's going through us and leaking energy. And eventually, not only can't we get beyond the boulder, but it makes us sick.
Yeah. You've got to be able to assess your bandwidth. You have got to be able to assess it. You've got to know, wait a minute, this is not the moment where I'm going to be able to show up 100% and not do it. There's a lot of things we talked about today, but really the key for me is you have to figure out where you are. You may be thinking you're supporting, and the person on the other side, or whatever's coming out of your mouth, or your facial expression, or, it's always funny here. I want to hear your closing message, but it's always funny for me, because I used to hate when the boss used to bring me in the office and shut the door. Like, come on in here. Right? Do you know that one?
I do. It's like you bite your nails. Like,
And I realized I did that to Nat 2 days ago, right?
Oh.
But it wasn't a bad thing. It was literally, I wanted to have a conversation with him and thank him for pitching in areas beyond what he does in a day. I mean, he's going through OBS profiles, he's helping other people. And I just wanted to take him aside to do that, right? But then I had a flashback as we're walking in the room, and my room is dark. I don't use overhead lights. Then we're walking in the room and I shut the door. I had a flashback of, oh my gosh, how many times have bosses done this to me? And it wasn't good news, right?
Oh, poor Poor Nat, he'll be in therapy.
But you see, now I'm starting to think about, and of course I'm going to be doing this with all of the other producers, but I'm starting to think about, was there a different way I could have done that?
Yes, exactly.
You know, was there something different? Right. Because we live in a world, Christine, where we don't generally hear from people unless something gets messed up. Now, that's not everybody. So what do you want to leave us with today? Because you have to have the courage to take that risk, even if you flub it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, flubbing it is all part of it. So you do it better next time, you know. It's how can I speak this better? How can I do this better, for sure. And I just want to say that Nat's our producer for the show.
Yes, he is.
I'm wondering who Nat is. Yeah, yeah. So I think the message here is for people to just stop, have a look at your life and get really brave and honest with yourself and think, what could I clean up today? Or what can I clean up, you know, this week? That pick something small to start with and just address that. Because as soon as you do, there is literally a shift in life force, a shift in energy, a shift in your whole being. And it helps our relationships so much. You know, it's the courageous choice.
It is.
The high choice, and it changes our lives. Yeah.
All right. So how do people get a hold of you? How do they find out more? Let's leave folks with that information if we could.
Okay. Always forget about that, Dr. Pat.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, they can research Christine Hart Savage, or they can go on to my website, and I can never remember it, Soul Life Connection, soulLifeConnection.com. And I've got a great course coming up starting in March, which really teaches people a lot of these things about energy, getting balance, releasing the past, and moving on, changing frequency. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on. I want to tell you, ask you stop, just stop in a moment. Supporting, hindering, yes or no? Figure it out. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dr. Pat. Thank you for tuning in to Higher Soul Living, where you'll ignite your divine intelligence for life with me, Reverend Christine Hart Savage. Join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more information and stories that inspire hope, possibilities, and a greater understanding of who you are at a higher soul level. Together we deepen the connection between the spiritual and the physical aspects of your being and align to your soul's innate intelligence. Metaphysics and the higher soul's journey are my greatest joy. I invite you to join our Facebook community, Soul Life Connection Group, and to visit my website, SoulLifeConnection.com, for more information about me, my programs, my coaching, and to tap into your higher soul's intelligence. I hope to see you next time.